Since 1962, there have been 5 different James Bonds and 18 Bond movies. This series follows the 19th film, The World Is Not Enough, from being an idea into becoming an international blockbuster. From the first ideas to the opening of the film, we'll see the choices people made as they produced the final Bond film of the millennium.
First things first. Roll.
The Bond movies are the most successful series of films ever, with a total cinema audience of over 2 billion people worldwide. Bond has become part of our lives.
Lucky for you I stopped by.
Bond is part of the contemporary culture, and is crept in the language.
Vodka martini. Shaken, not stirred.
We expect certain things from a Bond film. Although every film is different, there are recognizable elements within them. These are called conventions. Conventions fit into a certain genre or type of film.
Our genre is action-adventure films, so we have to have a story that lends itself to the action elements and also to the adventure, which is Bond's quest. Takes the audience on a tour to exotic places and as part of his search and the mystery.
Who are you?
Bond is fun, but Bond has a license to kill.
He has a very violent and difficult job.
There's something irresistible about it.
He's a man's man.
He's reckless.
He's action.
Caviar and champagne.
And he always gets the girl.
Bond. Only Bond.
So the ingredients for a Bond film are girls, gadgets, guns, villains, locations, explosions, the chase. If you don't have all these, then you don't have a Bond film. James Bond is more than just a character. He is a franchise, a recognizable brand name, delivering a particular quality to those who buy into it.
Take one. And action!
Michael Apted has been directing documentaries and feature films for over 30 years. He's never directed an action film before, but he knows what he has to do.
And that was, I think, the tricky part of the job, is to deliver what people want, make sure they get terrific action, make sure they get great gadgets, make sure they get humour, make sure they get beautiful looking women, but add something more.
One rises to meet a challenge.
Bond films are made in a fairly unusual way. At the start, all the director knows is that the film must be ready for the US release on the 19th of November 1999, 2 years after the previous Bond film, Tomorrow Never Dies. That gives the producers about 2 years to come up with the idea, hire the director, approve the script, cast the film, build the sets, find the locations, and then film, edit, and publicize Bond 19.
I haven't seen it myself, but I'm told the footage is excellent.
These films, Bond films, are sort of made the wrong way round. I mean, when I first came on the film, I had a release date. I didn't have a script anybody liked, didn't have any cast that anybody was excited about other than Pierce and Judy.
Good evening, Em.
Prime Minister's waiting for an update.
Didn't have any locations, didn't have any crew, just a release date. Well, I mean, that's clearly a lot of pressure, but also it's, in a sense, quite a good thing, because it does quicken the mind.
Let the mayhem begin.
The hard work begins months before a single frame of the film is shot. The first thing that you need is an idea.
Ingenious.
Something that would make Bond 19 different from all the other Bond films.
I rather like the last one.
Well, I think what they were looking for, both the producers, Pierce, and to a lesser extent the studio, who basically what they want is just a Bond film, was something which was a bit more dramatic than the others had been, that they wanted to beef up the stuff between the action sequences.
Neil Purvis and Robert Wade were asked to write The World Is Not Enough. How did it feel, having written only 3 major screenplays before?
The films had re-established themselves in a really big way and taken a lot of money, and so to be asked to come up with the next chapter in this incredible success was both an honour but also quite daunting.
James Bond. Charming, sophisticated secret agent. Shaken but not disturbed.
You're intending to give everyone what they want still, as far as gadgets and action and girls. Thank you. But we wanted to try and bring some motion to it as well.
How original.
I thought it was pretty much up for grabs, you know, the structure of the piece, as long as it kept the audience on their toes.
So we wanted to sort of try and take it back to the Connery days and the Fleming character. So, I mean, we read all the books and watched the films that we thought would be important.
James Bond was created by author Ian Fleming in 1952 and appeared in 14 novels and short stories. Many of the Bond films were based on Fleming's books, although the title, "The World Is Not Enough," is Bond's family motto. The storyline is an original idea.
I think we were interested in a contemporary story involving something that is in the world now that's of interest, and the sort of oil rush that's taking place in the Caspian Sea in Baku seemed to be a good point of a concentration of all kinds of interests.
We all agreed that that was an interesting backdrop for the film, but the challenge was finding a way of making it sexy and linking it to a character.
M sent me because we're afraid your life might be in danger.
Please, I want to show you something. I'm trying to build an 800-mile pipeline through Turkey, past the terrorists in Iraq, Iran, and Syria. Up here, the Russians have 3 competing pipelines, and they'll do anything to stop me.
We'd managed to place him in this rust belt, they call it, don't they?
Yeah.
And so we had to get him out of there. I mean, the Caucasus Mountains are nearby. They look really good. And then just through staring at a map for a couple of weeks did we spot the strategic importance of Istanbul and the Bosphorus Straits to what goes on in the Caspian. So that was a great relief to know that Act 3 could take place somewhere nice and sunny.
And not only sunny, but exotic and
Bondian.
We need to talk.
The script for The World Is Not Enough went through about 20 drafts before everyone felt happy with the structure of the story. This whole process of getting to the script that was finally shot took Michael Apted, Neil and Robert around 10 months.
Well, I mean, we would spend days and days going through everything. You know, I would tell them what I thought and what I liked and what I didn't like and what had to be done and what they wanted to do, what the producers wanted to do. I think we'll do that. We'll put this in deep shadow. Because I think it's quite good, don't you, for, you know. I come from a documentary background, so in terms of the script, I wanted things to be real. I wanted things to make sense, even though the film is really a fantasy with Bond. And then you hit the deck, fire and run. And then you kill this guy, haven't I? You kill him. I've killed him. Yeah. This is the point where you kill him.
Getting the script right isn't just about the story.
There was one thing that the producers told us, that because we had to go on a sort of learning curve about Bond as well while we were doing it, is that Bond always goes forwards. That we had him go back to one location which was considered quite unusual. He goes from location to location and he's always going forward, which that's slightly unusual, I suppose, for as a film structure.
It appears we share the same passions.
Most Bond films end the same way. Bond escapes in a dinghy with a girl, having just blown up a control center. Neil and Robert tried to adapt this convention.
So the film structure becomes fairly specific with those. And in fact, we were trying to avoid the control center blowing up, and I think we did manage to avoid it.
So, we have the story. From this, the producers can develop the budget. This is a calculation of how much the film should cost.
Ultimately, you have to make a film that's going to be profitable, or else you won't stay in business.
Why am I suddenly worried that I'm not carrying enough insurance? Huh?
So you have to, first of all, gauge about what you think your success level is going to be, which is quite easy for a Bond film compared to most films.
This is because the producers know that the previous film, Tomorrow Never Dies, took $340 million worldwide at the box office.
Seems like an awful lot just to save the world, Jimbo!
To make a profit, a film like Bond 19 must make 2.5 times its budget. The World Is Not Enough has a budget of around $100 million.
Numbers were never my strong suit.
One of the key things that the producers believe is that every dollar of the budget spent should be seen on screen. They are after the best possible actors, effects, settings. Giving the audience what they want, a crafted action movie, but within budget.
Point taken.
All this stuff costs serious money, and so the producers have to watch the pennies, and this affects the script.
I think they didn't like the word flotilla boats. They found that quite scary. A few boats, we were told to write. And they didn't want any rare fish underwater, did they?
That's right. They were pretty strict about that.
We were given a strong warning about that. If we try and slip some obscure eel in, there'd be trouble.
The film I did before this cost $6 million. This cost over 100. You know, I think a film is what it is and is worth what it's worth. And I knew on a film like this you had to spend a certain amount of money. And that money was going to be spent. So it never kind of weighed on me that oh my God, I'm spending $100 million, because that's what the film is going to cost.
With the script almost finished, the director can begin to get an idea of how it will work as a film narrative.
I was thinking that when I've done this shot here, I cut to what he's looking at. Yeah. Then we think we need a shot, another one, with maybe the chain in the foreground.
Michael Apted works out how he will shoot the film by using storyboards. These are individual drawings for the action sequences in the film, accompanied by the appropriate movement or dialogue.
277, take one.
Everyone now has a reference for what they will be doing, before they even get the cameras out of their boxes.
No hard feelings, Mr. Bond. But we're even. Soon, you'll feel nothing at all.
And cut!
There are 52 speaking characters in the film, and apart from a few of them, they all need casting.
I kind of wanted to hold back from casting until we had a script that we liked. But it was a bit hairy having gone through 2 months into the third month of pre-production and not having any cast other than Pierce, we had Judi Dench, we had Robbie Coltrane.
Who are you?
Everyone else we had to, start from scratch with.
How does the casting director approach her job?
I can pick from the world, which is what's so great about doing a James Bond film. You're not limited in any way at all. So whatever the requirements of the part are, you just go out there and find it.
It's a complicated business because it's a very expensive film, so the studio's investing all this money. Wants name people in it as well. They want people who you can put the names up on the trailer and everybody go, ooh, she's in it, he's in it, I want to go see that. So again, it's this balancing act between getting people who you know right for the role, people who are good actors and people who have some name value.
My family has relied on MI6 twice, Mr. Bond. I won't make that mistake a third time.
French actress Sophie Marceau, star of Braveheart, was cast as Electra King.
We had certain ideas with Electra that I felt, and I think the producers agreed with me, that the character needed to be exotic. So for the large part of our target audience, which is English-speaking men, whether they're American or English, European women are exotic.
You'll be safe here.
I don't want to be safe.
I'll be back soon.
You know, once Sophie Marceau was about the first person I met for it, and I thought, she's it, this is it.
The script can give us various clues to the characters: age, sex, physical description, nationality. But the casting of certain actors affects the script as well.
The casting of Sophie Marceau as Electra affected the casting of the Christmas Jones character, because originally she was going to be kind of French. But when we had a French actress playing the other girl, we thought, well, we can't have a French woman playing. So she became American, and that meant that the script was rewritten to make her more sassy, basically. And
it said American in brackets when she spoke.
He's an imposter. Dr. Arkoff is 63 years old.
This is your imposter.
Apart from Bond himself, the characters that we always remember best are the villains.
Victor Zokas, a.k.a.
Renard, the anarchist.
He was operating in Moscow in 1996, Pyongyang, North Korea before that, and he's been spotted in Afghanistan, Bosnia, Iraq, Iran, Beirut, and Cambodia.
All the romantic vacation spots.
His only goal is chaos.
It's usually much easier to cast the baddie than somebody who's playing a straight part, because people do like to play baddies. There's much more to get their teeth into, and you can really, make something of it.
You know, we wanted to go to high-quality actors. This wasn't just a piece of exploitation, and it wasn't a stunt piece of casting. It was a real acting role.
285, take 1A, cut them off.
In The World Is Not Enough, the filmmakers cast Robert Carlyle, star of Trainspotting and The Full Monty, to play Renard, international mercenary and all-round bad guy.
How sad to be threatened by a man who can't grasp what he's involved in.
Revenge is not hard to fathom for a man who believes in nothing.
A film is as good as its villain. I mean, that's not quite true with this, because Bond kind of, towers over the film, but if you don't give him anything really good to go up against, something really interesting and unusual, then, he's kind of hung out to dry. So I think it is fun writing the villain's part, casting the villain's part, and directing the villain, because I think, in that lies the key to the success of the film.
Bond films are famous for their striking locations. In the past, Bond has been to many exotic places. Locations in The World Is Not Enough are slightly more unusual and key to the plot of the film.
One thing is that the Bond films used to do all the travel, and people didn't travel as much themselves. So there was something about the exotic, faraway fantasy world that he was investigating that now people can travel more. I don't think you need to have him go to those locations quite as much.
Well, it doesn't mean as much, does it?
And in this one, we've taken him to Baku, and that's not where people are going to visit. So they'll get to see that place just like they used to.
The World Is Not Enough is full of settings that look authentic. Although they were inspired by places that exist, they were shot on sets in Pinewood Studios, or locations that stood in for somewhere else. The script called for many exotic settings and locations. For various reasons, it wasn't always possible to film in the exact place required by the script. The scenes in Kazakhstan, for example, were filmed in Spain. As well as locations, special sets were built for the interiors of buildings. Most interiors for The World Is Not Enough were shot at Pinewood Studios, an enormous complex of warehouse-like buildings near London. These vast spaces would be turned into the lavish sets for the film. The sets begin as 3D models, giving everyone an idea of how they will look, where the cameras will be, and how the characters will move through the scene, following the storyboard. This all happens well before the massive construction work at Pinewood goes ahead. Films aren't shot in the order of the story. With all of the travelling and set building to deal with, the crew need to know the best order in which to shoot the film.
If you start with a release date, then you have to work everything backwards. So if you have a release date, which is, for us, the magic date was November the 19th when the picture opens in America, then you have to figure out how long do we need to dub it, to cut it, how long do we need to shoot it approximately. We don't have a proper script, so we can't tell. But let's say we're going to do what the last two films did, shoot in about 110 days, so we've got to start shooting on January the 11th.
The schedule is planned by the line producer, who's responsible for the day-to-day management of the film. Tony Way has to make sure that the film keeps moving along.
The schedule I do today can be out of date by tonight. My desk is covered in paperwork, and why is because every piece of paper is an ongoing problem. It's not forgotten, it's just that they all have to be solved, and it's not something where you make one phone call and solve everything. They might need consultation with 10 or 15 different people, very often in different countries. So Bond to me is problems. It's non-stop problem.
A group of people work with Michael Apted through the production. Designers, producers, special effects, and stunt people. Most have worked on a number of Bond films, know how the Bond production machine works and what the audience expects. A daunting prospect for a director working on his first Bond film, surely.
But, you know, again, because I came in ignorant, not only of Bond films, but of action films, I was very grateful for, you know, the kind of solidity that was there. You know, that there's some very good people who had designed films like this, assistant directed films like this, stunt coordinated this, second unit directed this, special effects films, Bond films, other big action films. So there was a kind of little core of people here who were, I could see were going to guide me through the whole process.
With locations and sets agreed, Pinewood turns into a building site in the race to prepare for the first day of shooting.
It's kind of thrilling in a way to be part of something that is going to be made, that you're going to start shooting on January the 11th, and you'd better be ready.
Join us in episode 2 to see what actually went on at Pinewood and on location. Only 110 days to go. So stay calm, stay stirred, but not shaken.
The thought had occurred to me.